Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving straight into something that is fundamentally reshaping the high school academic journey. We are unpacking the 2026 digital testing landscape. We're going to look specifically at how the National Digital SAT and the Texas STAR RLA exams are converging. So if you're trying to figure out the unprecedented extension of the June 2026 timeline and what it all predicts for the future of college admissions, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get into it.
Here's the roadmap for our explainer today. We'll be decoding the SAT and RLA, taking a look inside the digital blueprints, navigating the new question types, mapping out that June 2026 extension, and finally getting into some college admissions predictions.
All right, Section 1, Decoding SAT and RLA. To kick things off, we actually have to clear up a funny little thing analysts call taxonomic conflation. Basically, database systems get completely tripped up by these exact acronyms. Obviously, SAT is the College Board entrance exam, but if you're booking a flight, is the International Airport Code for San Antonio. And on the flip side, RLA is the Texas Reading Language Arts Assessment, but it's also Rolla National Airport in Missouri. So while you could technically fly from SAT to RLA, for this explainer, we're keeping our feet firmly on the ground in the educational space.
So here's how these two massive testing frameworks actually intersect. On the national side, you have the digital SAT reading and writing module. This is a multi-stage adaptive test used primarily for college entrance. But on the state side, you've got the Texas STAR RLA, which is a mandatory assessment you have to pass to graduate high school. We're talking about these together today because, under current state accountability models, a student's SAT verbal performance is officially used as a state-approved alternative to satisfy those mandatory Texas high school RLA graduation requirements. They are structurally intimately linked.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, Inside the Digital Blueprints.
Take a look at the emphasis on cross-curricular passages right at the top of this STAR blueprint wheel for 2025 and 2026. Guys, the days of just filling in simple bubble sheets with a number 2 pencil, totally gone. This is a fully digital, highly interactive experience now. And that cross-curricular focus, it literally means 100% of the non-literary passages on the RLA are going to cover topics from completely different subject areas. You aren't just reading a generic story anymore, you're deciphering texts heavy on social studies, science, and even personal finance. It's wild.
Furthermore, the state instituted what's known as the 75% rule. This mandates that no more than 3/4 of your total test points can come from those traditional single-select multiple-choice questions. That leaves a full 25% of the exam dedicated entirely to new question types. So you simply can't pass this thing through rote memorization or the process of elimination anymore. You actually have to build the answer.
Now, shifting our view back to the national level, the digital SAT reading and writing section has its own specific blueprint, broken down into these 4 domains: craft and structure, information and ideas, standard English conventions, and expression of ideas. The whole test is multi-stage adaptive. That means how well you perform on the first module directly dictates the difficulty of your second module. And here is a huge relief. Those long, grueling, page-turner passages of the past are history. The 2026 SAT uses tiny microtexts, just 25 to 150 words, and each one is paired with exactly 1 question.
Which brings us to Section 3, Navigating Question Types.
To really see this in practice, let's look at how the SAT tests that craft and structure domain. It might throw a question at you like this. Why did it take 2 lead geese over twice as long to migrate from Alaska to California in 2020? The correct answer, which you have to pull directly from a highly condensed little passage, is airborne pollutants. This is a perfect example of the text structure and purpose skill. It tests your ability to read a mini-narrative, grab the main idea, and extract a highly specific cause and effect relationship, usually in under a minute.
Here's another little micro story, this time testing words in context. The text notes that former astronaut Ellen Ochoa doesn't have a firm date for when humans will live off Earth, but she knows it's going to happen. The question asks, what word completes the thought that this blank informs her interest in lunar research? The answer here is conjecture. The strategic shift is just huge. The SAT isn't testing obscure, million-dollar vocabulary words anymore. They are testing high-utility words directly applied to real-world scientific and historical scenarios.
Meanwhile, back on the state side, how exactly does the STAR handle that 25% of new question types we talked about earlier? Well, through active synthesis. You're going to see text entry, where you literally have to type your answer into a box.
Hot text, where you click the exact sentence in a paragraph to provide your evidence. Multi-part questions where, get this, getting part B right depends entirely on your logic from part A. And match table grids, where you categorize information across paired texts. It's demanding and it is highly interactive.
All right, Section 4. This is a big one, the June 2026 extension.
Because of all these new digital demands and overlapping accountability requirements, we are seeing this unprecedented extension of the testing season deep into the summer. Honestly, June 2026 is shaping up to be an absolute gauntlet for students. If you're using summer testing to wrap up graduation requirements or boost a college application, your schedule is packed. You've got the National SAT Weekend Test on June 6th. Right on its heels, from June 15th to the 26th, is the STAR Summer End of Course window. Right in the middle of that, on June 22nd, your SAT scores drop. Then STAR results arrive in late July, and everything locks in with final accountability reports on August 28th. You absolutely have to strategize for this specific window.
And speaking of that June 22nd SAT score release, there's a fascinating and frankly pretty stressful logistical quirk you need to be aware of. To prevent total server meltdowns from the insane digital traffic, the College Board forces a massive 12-hour gap for score releases. The morning batch rolls out at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. But if you don't get yours then, you have to wait a full 12 hours until the afternoon batch starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. Knowing this ahead of time will seriously save you a lot of unnecessary refreshing on an already high-pressure day.
Finally, Section 5, College Admissions Predictions. Let's talk about what this all means.
When we look at predictions for the admissions landscape for 2026 graduates, we're looking at a deeply fractured map. That universal pandemic-era test-optional standard, it is ending. Look at the distinct categories we have now. You've got the Ivy League returners like Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. They're requiring scores again. The STEM powerhouses like MIT and Caltech mandate them, mainly because they see math scores as critical readiness indicators. Then you have test-flexible schools, soft-optional places like Rice that say they're optional but strongly prefer a score, all the way to massive test-blind systems like the UC system in California that outright refuse to look at them.
But the absolute critical takeaway you need to understand is this. Yes, it's true that over 90% of colleges nationally still remain test optional for now. However, the highly selective and nationally prominent institutions are leading a very definitive return to mandatory testing. If you are aiming for top-tier universities, these digital SAT scores from that extended 2026 summer window, they're going to be a required, absolutely critical piece of your application portfolio once again. The shift is here. Digital platforms, automated grading, cross-curricular reading, it's the new normal. So I want to leave you with this question to think about. How will you balance meeting your mandatory state digital benchmarks, like the STAR RLA, with navigating these returning national testing requirements for higher education? Strategy and early preparation are really going to be your best tools here. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep preparing, and I'll see you next time.